Hello again, friends, and welcome inside, at least for me, Ben Garrett, the Riverland Roofing Studios. Riverland Roofing for all your roofing needs, 662-644-4297, riverlandroofing.com. My thanks to B&A Bank, Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group, all of those who sponsor both me and Zach here on Talk of Champions, and at the Ole Miss Spirit, OMSpirit.com, affiliate of On3. This is going to be a recruiting deep dive, a recruiting 101, if you will. Last time Zach and I were together, we talked all about all things Ole Miss recruiting. Whenever you see Zach sit with Ben, you know that's what's coming. And first and foremost, Zach, how we doing?
Doing great, man. The crisp in the air, nice little chill. It's been great this week. Weather in the morning has been phenomenal. That means that we've got meaningful college football coming up.
Yeah, we do.
Especially this weekend.
Ole Miss, Oklahoma this weekend. As far as Ole Miss fans are concerned, that's the one and only primetime matchup. For you, what's kind of your breakdown of the matchup to come? I've been talking to, I feel like, every Oklahoma radio show all week. Did one actually before we recorded, sat down to record and go live here on Talk of Champions with Zach. What's your takeaway from Ole Miss, Oklahoma going into it?
You know, I did some numbers diving. Talked about it on our show this week. Hit that line. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Also, where you get your YouTubes. We're on YouTube as well. But we talked a good bit about this Oklahoma defense and how good it is. Top 2 in points per game allowed, yards per play allowed, I believe. It's a top 5 unit. Hasn't really faced a really good offense, though. I think statistically the best offense that Oklahoma has faced has been Temple, which has an offense that is ranked higher than Auburn. I would probably say next to Temple is probably Michigan, which was earlier in the year, and that was with a freshman quarterback on the road. First road start ever for Bryce Underwood. That's kind of the key for me is strength on strength with Ole Miss's offense going up against Oklahoma's defense. I just checked the weather. Still looks like it's going to be a little dreary, a little rainy. We had somebody on the board. Actually, it wasn't somebody. It was Chuck. Chuck brought up kind of, the forecast and who it might benefit. And I told our people at the board that my sources are telling me that throwing a wet football with a recent surgically repaired thumb could prove to be difficult.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest takeaway, Ben, is Ole Miss's offense has been very, very, very good this year, scoring a lot of points. Hasn't gone like tempo at all, really. Haven't really seen a ton of tempo. It's not a 21 or 22 offense when Matt Corral and Jeff Levy and Kiffin were going, hyperspeed. Like this has been a very methodical, we're going to run the football. We're going to take what you give us on the outside. We're going to pick our spots to take shots. But for the most part, it's been a very methodical offense driving down the field. Saw it last week against Georgia. Ole Miss just kind of rammed it down Georgia's throat for most of that game. That's kind of my main focus for Saturday is Trinidad Chambliss and this offense stay on schedule on first and second down, get into those manageable third and mediums, third and shorts, and then just pick your spots. In terms of, adhering to the analytics, going forward on fourth, taking points. You got to take points on the road when you can get them. But yeah, I'd like to see the defense kind of turn up the heat, turn up the pressure a little bit on Mateer. Texas did that, and he looked very out of sorts. It was his first game back from the surgery, but he is a guy that he can do some silly stuff. He can be a little reckless with the ball. He had, I think, how many picks did he have in the Red River Shootout? 2?
At least 2. I thought it was 3. Maybe I could be mistaken. I thought it was 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, I think you're right. Bad picks. He's going to force some throws to try to make some plays because the Oklahoma offense has just been dreadful. Really haven't run the football consistently. Most of the running success has been with Mateer. And we talked about it on the show this week. He's kind of a trash team vulture where he puts up monster numbers against teams that aren't very good. And then when he plays somebody with a pulse, it can prove to be difficult. Now, one could argue that Ole Miss's defense may not have a pulse. Certainly didn't last week, but I I imagine Pete Golding and them have been in the lab all week. And I think that defense is going to be motivated to prove people wrong. And, hey, like that was just a blip. We're going to be better. Because defense was bad last week. I mean, it cost Ole Miss the game. I don't think there's any way around that. But yeah, very long-winded answer for you, Ben. But I'm very excited to see Chambliss on the road again. And another thing we don't talk about enough. This offensive line has been great. I mean, they have gotten better each and every week. They've given Chambliss plenty of time and have proven to be really good in run blocking as well when Ole Miss wants to run the football. So yeah, offensive line. And I want to see more Dejon Stribling and Caleb Odom on the outside.
I didn't hear a score prediction though. Just give me a quick score prediction.
I think it's going to be close, and then I think Ole Miss punches one in late. I'm going to say 27-17. I think it's going to be a one-score game, and then Ole Miss puts them away. I mean, Oklahoma's just been bad on offense. Like the defense, there's no doubt that defense is absolutely stacked. Brent Venables, it's his calling card, right? He's a defensive guy. I just really struggle to think that Mateer is A, 100%. I still think the thumb has got to be bothering him. And B, who's he throwing to? Who are the playmakers? Who are the explosive guys on this offense? So I think trenches are going to be big. Ole Miss's defensive line is the strength on that defense. But you need those guys in the secondary who weren't great last week, but you need your Wyatt Williams, you need your Ricky Fletchers, your Chris Graves. You need these guys to make plays because Mateer is going to probably have to take some chances because I do think Ole Miss can be good enough to force him into some third and mediums, third and longs, where he's going to have to take shots. So I'm going to say 27-17, like it's, 21-17, 2017 late, and then Ole Miss has to put together a drive to put the game away, and I think Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss can do that.
If it does thunderstorm, if it does rain, I think that benefits Ole Miss only because you're going to get more run heavy variations of your offenses in crappy weather. And Oklahoma hasn't been able to run the ball consistently yet. Last week had a really good rushing effort against South Carolina, 171 yards, the third highest production as far as game wise from the team this year, but they haven't done it 2 weeks in a row. So I'll be curious to see how both teams handle the elements if it is as bad as we think it could be. When you got a running element quarterback like Trinidad Chambliss, and a lot of what you do on the ground is predicated on his legs, a sloppy atmosphere could be beneficial. But it's a huge swing game, and obviously Ole Miss got to have it if you really want to put yourself in a good position for the college football playoff.
Good point there about Chambliss because Oklahoma is going to come after him, and Chambliss has been very good against the blitz. That's been kind of a theme the last couple of years with Kiffin offenses. Jackson Dart was really good against the blitz. He's been really good against the blitz in the NFL. But if you're Oklahoma and you're bringing 5, 6, maybe 7 guys, if those DBs backs are to the defense and he makes one guy miss and gets out, I mean it's off to the races. He's going to have plenty of room. Also. A very good timing on the question here from John about Luke Haas. I think he's going to be in the game a lot, especially if it's raining to block. That's kind of been a theme all year for college football and especially Ole Miss, like who's healthy, who's not. I think Luke has been working back from the injury, but he's more than capable to come in and put his pads on some people. He was out in space last week in the Georgia game blocking. But yeah, I think if you get him and Daquan right in there and run the football, get physical, I think you're going to see him a lot more. Because obviously they're going to put Odom out there, split him out wide because he's a mismatch. But I don't know I think that's kind of my take on Luke Haas.
He's healthy enough to play right now. I think he's still slowly getting back from it was a very serious injury that had surgery in July. He's back. He's playing in games, but really getting Luke Haas to where you thought he would be at this point. It's taken more time than I think anybody wanted. But I think he's going to get more run this weekend. I don't know if that's going to result in passes being called or anything. But the number one thing about Luke Haas, especially with the timeline after the injury, this is about the time you would expect him to start really contributing to winning football for Ole Miss. I think November could be a big month for him. And if it isn't, then it was a complete lost season, quite frankly. And I mean, you're almost to Halloween now, and the guy hadn't even caught a pass. So I think more than anything else, it's just coming back from the injury. Ole Miss knows what he can be and could be, especially if you pair him alongside Daquan Wright, who is questionable on the first availability report for Ole Miss this week for Oklahoma. I'm not buying much of anything into that. I think Daquan will play. Also on the questionable tag is Deuce Alexander, star Ole Miss wide receiver. I think he's going to play, and there's not going to be any limitations for him. But outside of that, nothing really notable from that availability report. It's just Talk of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. He's Zach Berry at Zach_Berry. We both write for the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate of Ole 3. Sign up today for just $1. $1 for your first week, and you can come talk about all things Ole Miss all the time with us at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com. If you're unhappy with or shopping your health insurance coverage, call Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group, 601-953-8449. That's 601-953-8449. He's an Ole Miss grad, services 35 different carriers, and will make sure you're in the right place for you and your family. Call him today, 601-953-8449, or visit his website, quoteswithdrew.com. That's quoteswithdrew.com. Also, Talk of Champions is proudly sponsored by B&A Bank, my hometown bank. Carolyn Brownson, the Spencers, Mike Staten, all others at B&A Bank are here to help you with all your personal and business banking needs, whether it be a checking or savings account, loans, and mortgages, or other financial services. B&A Bank has multiple branches in New Albany and Tupelo and emphasizes community involvement. Contact them today at 662-534-8171. That's 662-534-8171. B&A Bank is a certified CDFI. That's a community development financial institution, and provides online and mobile banking options for convenience. All right. This is mostly supposed to be a recruiting show. We're already 12 minutes into this thing, and yet here we are just talking about Ole Miss, Oklahoma. I haven't given my score prediction. I just don't know where I am on it. Honestly, I know it's going to be a tight game.
Come on.
Fine. It's Thursday. I don't have much time left. I told Jake that I was done with the predictions column, for the Spirit. So I'm going to say it right now. I think I picked Ole Miss to lose in the preseason, lose this game in the preseason. And earlier this week, I still kind of felt that way. But knowing how important it is for a number of different fronts, I'm going to say Ole Miss wins 28-17. 28-17. Yeah. Close enough to your 27-17 or whatever it was, but I didn't want to copy your exact score. I just think it's pretty well done. But as far as the recruiting angle, what is the most pressing thing right now for Ole Miss? It's kind of like a recruiting 101, a reset, where things are right now. You got signing day coming up in December. The transfer portal hasn't heated up yet, but it's going to. The one transfer portal is in January, but some guys already got in that have Ole Miss ties or interests. What's the main pressing thing that you're paying attention to in the world of Ole Miss recruiting right now, Zach?
I think the most important thing for this weekend is keeping an eye on a couple Auburn commits who will be in Baton Rouge for LSU, Texas A&M, who I believe LSU is a live dog this weekend. On our show, I did pick LSU to win outright. I think this is kind of a back against the wall game for Garrett Nussmeier and the Tigers, but Braylon Womack and Jace Matthews will both be in Baton Rouge this weekend. Most of the time when these kind of things happen, it's like, hey, these guys are going to go watch a good football game. They're just going to go have fun and get wined and dined. I mean, I think that's true, but I also think both of those are going to give LSU a legitimate look. Jace Matthews for sure, because of how close he is with Kelvin Bolden, who was at Ole Miss and is now at LSU. But Braylon Womack has had some incredible quotes this week in regards to his current standing with Auburn. My good buddy Tom Loy over at 24/7 talked to him and had some quotes that are pretty eye-popping if you're an Auburn fan, and if you're an Ole Miss fan, if you're trying to get Braylon Womack to flip. He gave the canned, quote, "I'm locked in with Auburn, but my recruitment is still open." He said, "I hope to shut it down soon, but we'll see." He caught a lot of flack last week when he was pretty critical of the defense and pretty critical of Auburn in general. Losing.
How dare he have an opinion?
Everybody took it as he was, bashing the program and, oh, he's not committed anymore. And, look, both things can be true. He can be critical of Auburn and how it's continued to just flutter away into the wind while also being committed. Now, with that said, he also had a pretty interesting quote here, Ben, that said, I really hope we can get this situation fixed at Auburn so I can go ahead and shut things down. Right now, I'm just playing the waiting game, which, I mean, that right there says you're not committed.
You're not committed.
I've said it on the board. I've said it on the show, I believe. I've said it, months ago when his recruitment was, when he initially committed to Auburn. I was shocked. Every time I ever talked to Braylon and his dad, I got the impression that he was going to go out of state, but not just out of state, but to, I thought it was going to be Notre Dame or Ohio State. Always talked about the academics at Notre Dame, the prestige. He really likes Marcus Freeman. Who doesn't? And then Ohio State, like he always talked about wanting to go there and be the next big thing in the secondary. And, he's a big fan of Caleb Downs and what he's done. And he's got a great relationship with Ryan Day. And, yes, I understand Auburn is out of state, but I thought he was going to go elsewhere. I figured he would go either to the Big Ten or to Notre Dame. And I'll go ahead and say it since we're talking about him. The whole thing with like his sister, and she was at Ole Miss and then she transferred because she wasn't playing on the softball team. That was overblown 100 times over. Every time I talked to Braylon and his dad, they said that had nothing to do with anything. They had nothing to do with Ole Miss not getting a commitment or not being considered, whatever. Like Ole Miss was always in the mix. They really like Lane Kiffin. They like the idea of playing in the state of Mississippi. I just thought this was just one of those recruitments, Ben, where sometimes kids just want to go somewhere else. And it's not a knock on Ole Miss. It's not, well, Lane Kiffin and them aren't doing a good enough job. Like sometimes these kids just want to leave. Like they want to go experience something different. Now, he could do that and then eventually come back to Ole Miss. I mean, we've seen that happen plenty of times over the years, but the quotes can't be ignored. And Hugh Freeze and Auburn still cannot win games late. They keep putting themselves in position to win and are finding new ways to lose them. So going to LSU this weekend, LSU
SEC officiating hadn't helped them, but
yeah.
And Ken Williamson just got suspended. Look at this. Like, hey, Ole Miss fan.
Is that real, by the way?
Yes. Yes, that is real. Like accountability for a referee in this year of our Lord 2025. Who would have thought? But yeah, I'm with you on Braylon Womack and Jace Matthews. Both are going to be in LSU this weekend. I don't think Braylon's going to end up in Ole Miss's initial boat. I think if anything, he's going to sign with whoever he signs with in December. And if he becomes a portal option, Ole Miss will be the number one, if not a top 3 opportunity for him to come in and step in and start. That's the thing about high school recruiting these days. It's never meant as little, right? So you get questions like from Grayson, who is Ole Miss's top target right now? Well, we could say Jace Matthews, our good friend Grayson Weir. Hey, buddy, how you doing? We could say Jace Matthews. We could say Braylon Womack. There's some other guys out there that we're paying attention to, some commits elsewhere, that there's some coaching instability or this, that, and the other. But the question is of all these guys we talk about, since high school recruiting isn't what it once was. I've been saying that a lot with the Florida stuff too, with the Lane and Florida stuff in my YouTube comments. It's like, yeah, but look at Florida's able to sign top 10 high school classes every year. Well, unless you're actually weighing the transfer classes with that, it means absolutely nothing anymore. High school recruiting has never been more de-emphasized in that way. So my question is, number one, to answer Grayson, who is Ole Miss's top target right now? Who would you say before we jump to this one from Brian?
I'd say it's probably Braylon Womack or Tavian Branch, the Penn State commit. He's taking trips to Ole Miss, Maryland, and Nebraska. He's high on Ole Miss. Randall Joyner and Pete Golding have stayed on him. They've continued to recruit him. Joe Judge is in there as well because he's from the Northeast. He will be in town, I believe. I can effort really quick to double check. I believe it's for the Florida game, November 15th. But he is taking a visit I say that he's a bigger target than Jace Matthews because I think the trenches are more important. And that's not a knock on Jace, wide receiver, incredibly talented. But I think if you're Ole Miss, you're looking to get impact defenders first. Also, you kind of throw a wrench in it with Matthews' ACL injury that shortened his senior season. But Tavian Branch, 3-star defensive lineman out of Riverside High School in Pennsylvania. He is number 61 overall defensive lineman in the country. He will be at Ole Miss on the 15th for that Florida game. He's going to Maryland next weekend, and then he will be at Nebraska the weekend after he is in Oxford. So if you're Ole Miss, looking to land somebody else, if you don't want to wait around for, say, Danny Beal, who is still trying to figure out what he wants to do after decommitting from Oklahoma State, because Taj Overton has committed to Missouri. That's kind of it right now, because Ole Miss has turned a lot of attention to 2027. If you're on the Ole Miss Spirit board, you've seen that I've posted a lot of offers going out for 2027, where this staff is more than pleased with the current class and what it already has. And so they're not gonna push to get, we got to get 23 or we got to get 25 before that doesn't matter. You save room for the portal. You keep that powder dry. But yeah, I would say top targets would be a defensive lineman or an impact secondary guy like Braylon Womack, who, in my opinion, he talked a lot about Caleb Downs and why he likes Ohio State. A lot of similarities there. A very, very skilled guy that can play on the back end.
There's another guy potentially skilled on the back end that Ole Miss could be interested in. Cornerback Braylon Edwards has decommitted from SMU. He told Rivals, Hayes Fawcett of Rivals, teammate of Landon Barnes, 4-star Ole Miss edge commit for 2026 from Duncanville, Texas. Been committed to SMU since May. Currently holds a total of 44 offers. Do we think that one could be potentially an Ole Miss target to pay attention to in these final weeks of the 2026 sprint?
Yeah, it could be. You can never have too much depth in the secondary. You look at what Brian Brown and Wes Neighbors and Pete Golding do. They like rotating guys. They like keeping guys fresh. They play, anywhere from 4 to 5 defensive backs at a time. But yeah, I mean, 6 foot, 190 pounds. It's got track speed. That's something that you really can't teach. It's got a big wingspan. Over 73-inch wingspan, so he's got long arms. You need those levers when you're out there on an island trying to defend passes. So the film shows a guy that can really run and can stay in phase and make plays. And you mentioned he's teammates with Landon Barnes, who, by the way, let's go ahead and just make this a normal thing. I think 9 times out of 10, if you're recruiting a guy that has a grill, sign him. It's worked out with Keelan Lacey. And I think it's going to work out with Landon Barnes. But both Landon Barnes and Braylon Edwards play at Duncanville, arguably one of the best high school programs in Texas. They don't put out bums there. If you play at Duncanville, you can play ball. So yeah, that'd be a guy to keep an eye on, especially if there's some attrition in this class down the line. That could be something to watch. But as far as Braylon Edwards' recruitment currently goes, he's got notable offers from Arkansas, Auburn, Ole Miss. I'd imagine he will end up in the Big 12 or the SEC. Texas Tech's offered him. Houston's offered him. Arizona State, if he's looking to go out a little bit more southwest. But I think he's going to hover around the SEC or the surrounding area for the Big 12. But good player, 3-star. Like I said, good frame, can run. That's another thing, man. If you can find a DB in Texas, 9 times out of 10, they run track and they're pretty damn good at it.
Well, I want to get to this question specifically from Brian Wesley. And if you want to leave a comment for us here to talk about live on the show, Talk of Champions, powered as always by Riverland Roofing. Riverland Roofing for all your roofing needs, 662-644-4297. RiverlandRoofing.com. Ben Garrett, Zach Berry, both of the Ole Miss Spirit, OMSpirit.com. The affiliate of On3. Sign up today for just $1. And if you haven't already signed up at the Ole Miss Spirit and you're looking for a deal, if you ever see Ben walking around campus, going into a game, and you want to give us a try, ask me for one of my cards because I got a nice QR code on there that you can click through, and I'll give you a deal just by giving us a chance and saying hi, because I want to talk to you anyway. We're happy to have you at the Ole Miss Spirit. We want to have the biggest tent possible for an Ole Miss community and everybody to feel welcome. But I wanted to touch on this specifically, this question from Brian Wesley. What's y'all's opinion on how much the whole Lane to Florida fiasco hurts recruiting? Honestly, I think the hay's in the barn as far as high school recruiting. I just, there's not going to have really any impact whatsoever. The transfer portal obviously doesn't open until January. So really what we're talking about here is the perfect time if you're going to have this kind of distraction or rumor mill to happen right now. Because recruiting, unless a Billy Napier gets fired at his institution like has happened, and you've seen some players decommit and say, hey, I'm done with Florida, you're not going to see much by way of rumors and this, that, and the other. I think the funniest thing is that in the absence of real information, nonsense tends to fill the void. And man, if I only told you some of the calls I've gotten this week,
can confirm.
If I could only tell you the amount of calls I've gotten this week with some crazy things people have said they've heard from sources and this, that, and the other. One that really caught my eye was that I was
gonna ask, what's been the craziest one? What's been the dumbest one that you've had?
By far, I had someone I really respect who's really great at what they do, reputable, awesome, dear friend. Seriously, I love the guy. But called me to ask about, hey, have you heard that Keith Carter is calling around telling recruits, don't worry, if Lane Kiffin leaves, that there'll be a coach in place within the next 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks of that happening. And I just had to say, did you hear what you just said? A sitting athletics director is calling around the country talking to Landon Barnes in Duncanville, talking to first of all, high school recruiting, as much as we hate it, isn't the same as it used to be. It's not on the top of the agenda list anymore. If you only sign 8 guys, but 8 of them contribute, man, you have a better hit rate than most people do that sign a top 20 class of 25 kids. Okay, so it's just a different world. It's like in those YouTube comments I was talking about earlier, Florida fans saying, well, Florida signs top 10 classes every year. Imagine Florida or Lane Kiffin with Florida resources. You're not even taking into account the NIL structure, which if you weigh those classes with transfers and high school players, Ole Miss is top 8 at worst in the country for the last 5 years. They sign a top 4 or better class in the portal every single year. They signed the number 1 class last year. The NIL money is there more so than even at Florida. Not to mention the fact that Ole Miss has better infrastructure and a system in place in many ways started by Lane Kiffin that, they do it better than anybody. They've been front leading. They find guys. Trinidad Chambliss was a testament. Like Kirby Smart was like, I don't know who should get credit for this. It's Ole Miss's scouting and development department. This is what they do. Trinidad Chambliss was found because they've been front leading. They're better than everyone else, right? So I don't think it really impacts it at all. I think Ole Miss and the transfer portal and its recruiting, nothing's going to change between now and whenever a quote decision happens, if whenever happens.
I'll tell you this, the big thing that has really helped.
Got a Florida State fan in here, Wells McMahon, real quick, and he says, all right, what do you say? Don't want to interrupt the show, but you think he stays, speaking of Kiffin, or goes? Really hope he stays. Ha. If you made me guess right now, the most likely outcome, even though this is a recruiting show, but I knew we'd get asked, I say he's going to sign a lucrative extension with Ole Miss, and Florida's going to hire Eli Drinkwitz. But, we're not – we don't have crystal balls. You know what I mean? Like we don't have, we're not like soothsayers in that way. Like I don't want to tell you something I don't think, but that's where my brain is right now.
My gut says he stays, and there's a ton of factors. I think one of the bigger ones is I think Ole Miss is going to be playing meaningful football well into December, possibly January, and Florida can't wait that long. And I don't think it's not like Lane's doing anything this week or next week. Like if anything, there's not going to be anything going on until the bye week. which is before Mississippi State. Going back to the regional recruiting thing, where what if Lane Kiffin is in Gainesville? Well, Ben, there's these things that have been around lately called cars and airplanes, and it doesn't fucking matter where you coach or where you live. You can just go wherever you want. So I think that's a little ridiculous.
Passionate today, dropping a live F-bomb,
Hey,
man.
look, you want energy? I'm bringing it.
Oh God, that's funny.
Also, I talked to a buddy who has been in the scouting business for a long time. He pointed out to me, I didn't even realize this. I mean, it's not like I'm keeping an eye on this during the NFL draft, but there was only one Florida-born player, like Florida high school player, to go first round last year, and that's way down from years past where you've seen Georgia, Texas, state of Ohio, California, all these other big high school states that are churning out more NFL players. And look, that's something that's going to always be cyclical. Like, I think for the most part, you're going to have states that it's going to flux, but pretty pertinent there that the state of Florida hasn't been putting out NFL players left and right like most people expect them to.
And again, Zach, as a freshman signed to an probably a bloated contract in terms of the production they're going to bring you in year one, who cares? Brandon Tyler, did y'all see Lane's tweet this morning? Is he trying to tell us without telling us? I think he's trying to tell you not to worry about things because worrying is a useless emotion. I mean, it's biblical. It's a useless emotion.
Control the controllables.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, like, it's not Florida fans. Social media isn't real. Comment sections aren't real, but they can feel very real because especially when you're in the middle of it. Do I think it's a real threat that Lane could go to Florida? Of course I do. But if you made me guess today based on what I know, not a gut feeling, not an opinion, off of what I know, Ole Miss, the money people at Ole Miss who really matter are willing to move heaven and earth. Okay. Like, there's nothing. If he went to Florida, it would have nothing to do with something Ole Miss didn't offer him. So I think today, if you made me guess based on the people I've talked to and the information I have, I think he signs a lucrative contract extension. But as far as his tweet this morning, maybe he was, but I think it's more just Lane being Lane. From Douglas. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and again, I just think the resources at hand. He has it built. The structure is built. This has nothing to do with what Florida could potentially do. Because, look, you look at what's happened in previous years, Florida has shown zero signs of figuring it out in terms of NIL. Like, people, like, the most, like, recency bias, what have you done for me lately, society right now. But Jaden Rashada sued Florida for an NIL contract. That's happened in the last 5 years. Like, people forget that.
Nuts.
That's kind of been my thing is, like, if Kiffin goes to Florida, he's going to have to build it from scratch and build it to what he has at Ole Miss. That's going to take a couple years. And look, the people that are like, well, Florida makes this much more money and they have this many more students. Yeah. Like, we know, like, no one's arguing that the University of Mississippi has more money than
are all those students and all those people. Are they all giving money? Because I know about 20 teachers off the top of my head in Mississippi that are giving a little bit of their pathetic paychecks, which is criminal because teachers should be paid more. It's just the idea that Ole Miss doesn't have uniformity or real billionaire. Like, they have not millionaires, billionaires willing to that are giving money and are willing to move heaven and earth. So if you're asking me what I think is going to happen today, October 23rd, and fully acknowledging that, like, I don't even think this gets really real until the end of November, if not December. And if Ole Miss is in the college football playoff, which is a big swing game coming up this weekend in Oklahoma for that specifically, I don't even know if it's going to be that much of a discussion. But everyone's like praising Eli Drinkwitz for what he said on Paul Feinbaum yesterday about, and he gave the same answer as Lane. He said, we're focusing on right now. He didn't. He was completely non-committal. And I've got it very well sourced that as much as Florida fans might not like it, Eli Drinkwitz is in that thing. He wants that job.
Sure.
And there's been a lot of talk, not between him and like Scott Strickland, but through back channels as these things typically go. And He's as much of a candidate, in my opinion, as Lane Kiffin right now. Jonathan Mays, Florida has more talent than Ole Miss. He won't have to rebuild anything, just win games. Well, I would disagree. And according to Sixth String, from 2020 through 2025, Gators are 36 for 34. Ole Miss is 50 for 19. That includes the COVID season. So if you think he won't have to rebuild anything, you're insane. One, because you're already paying a $20 million buyout that you fully owe to Billy Napier. Like, Jonathan, are you giving some of this money to pay for Billy Napier? Where do you think this comes from, right? Secondly, you're going to have to meet at least 13 to 15 million, because that's what Ole Miss is willing to do to keep Lane Kiffin on an average annual value as far as salary. Third, from a coaching staff standpoint, Ole Miss is among the nation leaders in staff payouts, including the highest paid coordinator in the SEC in Pete Golding. Billy Glasscock, yes, is the 16th general manager as far as compensation in the nation. Part of the negotiations with Ole Miss then is to get Billy Glasscock taken care of and paid more, to get him in the top 10, if not top 5 for general managers. Florida can say they will do all these things, but the proof is in the pudding. And since 2020 through 2025, you are 36 for 34, and you're on your 5th coach since Urban Meyer stepped down as your coach in 2010. You are Florida, and you've got an incredible historical accomplishment and track record and resume. But in the year 2025, no one gives a shit that you're Florida. All right, now moving on to this question I've been trying to get to with Douglas A. Sherman.
Yeah.
Not sure the long game that Kiffin is playing, maybe, to have a lot of money dumped into donations for the Grove. I just feel like that's detrimental considering what happened in 2022 in Kiffin, which is more than fair, because in 2022, this exact same stuff happened, except with Auburn. And now that he finally admitted it 3 years later that he was really close to going to Auburn, that was a distraction. I've talked to enough players and coaches in those rooms and in that locker room, and know that it was a distraction, and they lost 4 of their last 5 games. So there is a play, I think, in that way for Kiffin, not just to get more donations and money going into the NIL coffers, but also to get he wants to reset the market pretty much everywhere, as he should as the CEO of a company. If a CEO of a very successful company is operating better than anyone else, rising tides lift all boats. And if Lane Kiffin's being risen up, he wants to make sure that everybody else gets taken care of too, and that's including his Grove Collective coffers. And it's just a silly discussion to have, or a regressive conversation to have, when you talk about Ole Miss in that way, that it's not Florida, this, that, and the other. Do y'all have $1.7 billion, not millions, $1.7 billion committed in giving? Because Ole Miss does. Just saying, you better bring it.
Well, and Jonathan asked us about, what has this accomplished, like playoffs, conference championships.
But you're so thirsty for it. What are we talking about?
We said our Austin Gray said on the show last year, it's not what Florida was or could be, it's what Florida is right now.
It's what they are.
Like, I'm pretty sure
a disaster.
With my liberal arts degree math here, current prospects were 1 year old when Florida won a national championship last.
Drill Pope called me on the phone the other day just to talk some ball, and we talked about the Florida stuff. And all it came back around to was, he's like, they haven't been good since we made Tebow cry. Which is like,
shout out Poe's Corner, baby.
Oh, that's my guy. I love
look, again, like, nobody's saying that Florida has never won anything or Florida won't win anything. It's what it is right now in its current form. And right now in its current form, it's a mess. Now, could Lane Kiffin clean it up? Sure, absolutely. Eli Drinkwitz could clean it up. I think James Franklin could clean it up. I think James Franklin would be a great hire.
I think it's insane that there's this like love affair from Florida fans with Lane and they recoil at James Franklin as if they don't have very similar resumes. And this is not a knock on Lane, but if you're going to get paid as the highest paid coach in America, and I think for a brief time he's going to be until Kirby Smart resets the market, until Ryan Day resets the market. It's just like paying quarterbacks in the NFL. It doesn't matter what you think of Dak Prescott. He was always at one point going to become the highest paid player at that position because it's the premium position in the NFL, and the next guy resets the market. So Lane's going to reset the market, and then somebody else, and then somebody else, and then somebody else.
And also, I meant to say this earlier, but to your point about setting the market, I mean, a lot of this too, I put it on our board today. I think a lot of the negotiations and stuff with Jimmy Sexton and what they're going for with this new contract, I mean, I think he's definitely negotiating for more money for the assistant pool.
Yes.
Like, look at
Including Billy Glasscock. That's what I'm saying. Like the GM who's 16th, he's like, well, to keep me bump Billy up to top 8, top 5, and Ole Miss will.
And look at the staff. I mean, you've got Lou Spanos, who's got an NFL resume that has been a huge addition to the defensive line coaching staff. You've got Joe Judge, who was an NFL head coach. You've got Chris Kiffin, who was in the NFL. I mean, these guys are, Ed Orgeron's all of a sudden, trying to get hired again. Like, maybe Lane Kiffin gives his old buddy a call and wants him to come be a defensive analyst or something. I mean,
can you imagine how fun Ed Orgeron back at Ole Miss as an analyst would be? Holy cow! The stories, the former players. I can't tell you. I could start listening to them actually. Poe, 40, Dexter McCluster, and Matt. Like, we would just have a full-on 2008 reunion, man. I know he had to leave for them to be good, but like, those are his dudes. He found those guys. I mean, he was the top recruit in America.
A lot of this is more so like Kiffin trying to take care of his people, right?
Right.
Like, you want to keep Pete Golding in Oxford. You want to keep Randall Joyner in Oxford. You want to keep Charlie Weiss Jr. there.
You'd have another performance like Georgia against Oklahoma. Pete Golding, there might be some conversations to be had,
Well, yeah, sure.
It's more about personnel. I'm being an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of the thing here where, it's more about continuing to build what you're in the process of putting together, where Ole Miss was one game away from the playoff last year. No doubt. One game. You beat Kentucky or you beat Florida, you're in. A couple years ago, Ole Miss started out, 7-0, 8-0, played Alabama at home. A play away from beating Alabama. That season could have been completely different because you go on the skid at the end. So you continue to put together a staff like this that's going to evaluate, find prospects, find portal guys. You're only going to get better. Again, we talked about it. We said it on the board. I mean, people were saying this was going to be a rebuilding year for Lane Kiffin. They're saying like 8-4, 8-5, 9-3. Like, that's the ceiling. Like, I can't see them winning any more than 8 or 9. And now you're looking at, like, Ole Miss has got a shot at going 11-1. Got a shot at getting to Atlanta for the first time. Got a shot at, either getting a bye or hosting a playoff game for the first time ever. So that can't be forgotten in all of this, that Ole Miss has done such a phenomenal job at roster management and finding pieces, to plug and play, where you've got a nice mix now, Ben, of some high school guys that have come in and developed and are playing. Look at Xavier Harris. Look at Cam Franklin, William Eccles. These guys that were signed and are now playing. I mean, you want to talk about an ROI on a high school player. I mean, the only guy that's playing right now, year one, is Winston Watkins. And he's playing a good bit now. So, like, that right there, good eval. Came in, immediately figured things out, hitting the ground running. But I think the way you sustain this at Ole Miss, and I mean, hell, it's the way you sustain it anywhere at this point, is you got to go and find people in the portal, and you got to find a mix of instant impact dudes like Trey Amos, who's starting for the Commanders right now.
As a rookie.
Mercenary. Came in, boom, went to the NFL. Prince Umami-Ellen, Walter Nolan, Pooh Paul, which you could argue
should have come back.
Would have been nice to stay, but he didn't. Whatever. He's playing professional football.
And with the third most draft selections last year, Lane Kiffin went 9-3 and missed the playoffs. And yet, y'all think it's a talent issue or a resources issue? That's insane. It doesn't even. It's has nothing to do with that. Again, no one's arguing whether Florida is historically a better program than Ole Miss. What we are arguing is that this is a completely different time in college football, and either y'all catch up to the times and understand what you're in now, or continue to flail away.
You know who isn't up with the times and it's hurting them? Dabo Swinney.
Dabo.
Late to the portal, late to NIL, did the whole stupid ass quote about, if they pay players, I quit. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Why
he
are
quit.
you
He quits. Like, but I don't see you giving up that $12 million a year, buddy. You know,
like
I don't.
what
What,
an and speaking
are,
of the Commanders, Ben, imagine if Ole Miss had figured things out or just said screw it. And the NCAA was just like, all right, whatever. If Ole Miss kept Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt,
oh,
I mean, dude is killing it.
well,
In the
it's
NFL.
not Ole Miss keeping him. They had him,
Well,
and
they had him. They just let him go to avoid
well because
a
there was like
fiasco.
there was some legitimate like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
There,
know,
there were.
clearinghouse or just like going through compliance, getting him eligible to play at Ole Miss. It wasn't because Ole Miss didn't want Bill. It's because Bill couldn't get qualified at Ole Miss, so he had to stay at Arizona. But yeah, could you imagine having Bill plus whatever else they had? Like last year, that would have been the missing piece, right? I mean, because
Well,
you know, they lost all ending all faith with the Ulysses Bentley, fair or not.
which is so stupid because Ole Miss basically got spooked enough to where they moved on. Now we've got this whatever bullshit with like G League players coming back to college. Like, what the? You open up that Pandora's box, and it's going to get weird.
All right,
But
let's
let's
do
go back.
exact
Let's
recruiting.
get back on topic.
Let's get back to recruiting. We did, I knew that we were going to hit on some lane, but we got only a few minutes left here on Talk of Champions, powered as always by Riverland Roofing, B&A Bank, Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group. I don't want to leave it without actually touching on some of the things we came here to talk about. So let's do a Zach's recruiting attack, and let's first hit on Ole Miss baseball commitment movement. What do you have for us there as far as Ole Miss baseball securing some commitments recently?
Yeah, big run this week with Trent Buckley. Most have him as the number one player in the state of Mississippi in the 27 class out of Columbia Academy. I plan on having a deeper dive into a lot of these players in the recruiting class, talking with Troy Sutherland from Perfect Game. But he says he thinks Buckley has legitimate two-way ability at the SEC level, can pitch and can play infield, outfield, can really swing it. I talked with Grady Nelson, kid out of Indiana. That's an absolute brick shit house, Ben. I mean, the kid is huge and can absolutely swing it. Big time power from the left side. And then Grayson Parker, a kind of a little bit of a Cade Townsend type dude. He's like 6'1", 175 pounds, and is getting close to 94, 95 on the gun. A lot of potential there. So a good mix right there. You got an in-state kid. Now Ole Miss has Trent Buckley and Quincy Pratt from Magnolia Heights, the top two guys in the state. Now I know we'll get into draft risk and all of that when I talk with Troy, because he knows way more about it than I do. He talks to way more pro scouts, so he'll have a better idea of that. Plus, it's a little early, but you can't be afraid of that. You got to go get players. You can't worry about the risk. You go get the lottery ticket and you hold on to it until you have to rip it up. So, but 3 commits, all 3 guys, glowing reviews of the staff and Oxford in general. That was interesting. All 3 said that about why they chose Ole Miss. They all mentioned the town of Oxford and, you know, family vibe. Everybody's on the same page. Like everybody treats you like you're one of them. All that. It's cliche, whatever. But that was big. And then for Grayson Parker, Joel Mangrum, big part. Respects the MLB experience. He's with the Guardians, was working with that pitching staff. Now he's in Oxford, and he's working to put together another really good pitching staff to make a run to get back to Omaha. He talked a lot about Joel Mangrum and how loved his sit down with him, kind of his plan for getting him to the next level. So pretty good class right now. It's not a ton of commits as of today, but it's still a top 15, top 20 class. And Mike Bianco and them are trying to, get back to where they want to be. And that's at Omaha, competing for a College World Series championship.
Well, before I get to my last recruiting question and what's supposed to be a recruiting dominated edition of Talk of Champions powered by Riverland Roofing, Trey Clark 3057, if your life depended on it, will Kiffin stay or go? Yes, I'm back, and sorry for being late to the show. Yeah, you're a little late. We've been talking a lot about Lane, but like I said earlier, if you made me guess today based on information I know, and you can find all of this information, this daily discussion at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and affiliate of On3. Sign up today for just $1. And if you find me anywhere, if you see Stupid Ginger Shrek walking around, ask for a card to come join us if you haven't already, or to give it to somebody, and I'll give you another good deal on it too. So, yeah, I think if you ask me based on information I've been gathering, and we do this all day, every day, I would say he stays with a lucrative extension, not just for himself, but for his staffers, including his general manager, Billy Glasscock. RCLMX Shift, who is your World Series winner pick? I hope it's the Blue Jays, because, buddy, I hate the Los Angeles Dodgers. But the last recruiting question on what was supposed to be this recruiting packed edition has mostly been recruiting, talk of champions, transfer portal stuff. It's still early. There's only one portal window now, and that's in January.
Yeah.
When will we really start to see some movement, in your opinion? And I think we're seeing some early targets, at least for Ole Miss, emerge. The Oklahoma State offensive lineman, the Clemson defensive back. What's just kind of your state of the transfer portal, Zach, and your recruiting attack?
Yeah, real quick, I'll tell Trey earlier in the show, I said my gut tells me Kiffin stays. And then for Shift, World Series winner pick, I hate it. I'm going to say Dodgers in 6. I'm going to go with the team that has a cyborg on it, and that's Shohei Ohtani. I would love to see the Blue Jays win, though, because I grew up on Vladimir Guerrero, and it's so cool to see his son do his thing. But portal, yeah, it's still very early, but yeah, Noah McKinney, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma State, he's going to take some visits. Where is he going? I believe he has one visit set up already. I believe it's in like a week or two. It's not this weekend, but 6'3", monster dude, played right tackle at Oklahoma State. Florida State's going after him. Kentucky. A lot of Power 4 teams are talking to him. I'm trying to find where he is going. Like A&M has shown some interest. So I want to say maybe Maryland. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
while you figure that out, while you figure that out, Ole Miss has early interest in a Clemson defensive back, Sheldon Lewis. Also, Auburn cornerback is entered the portal, and that's another guy that could potentially be a target for Ole Miss as well, right?
Yeah, and I'll say this too. We talked about it before we hit record. I think the portal is going to be potentially very lucrative for Ole Miss this year, because if you handle business in Norman this weekend, and then you seemingly do what you should do the rest of the way, and in my opinion, that's going 11-1. You beat Oklahoma this week. I mean, you're flying high, and I think the rest of the way, you're going to play a South Carolina team that's basically dead.
But
you're going
to
play a Florida team. You're going to play a Florida team.
They're flying high after beating Georgia last year. I'm just saying they've got losable games still on the schedule. Florida's losable. South Carolina's losable. State's losable.
South Carolina's not losable.
Okay. They were the preseason darling, the team.
I said that was stupid back then, and it's stupid now. These are teams, Ben, where like it's quit watch, but it's also like I need to get my ass in the portal watch because these guys are wanting to go somewhere. But yeah, Florida's going to be tough, but they're all at home, and then you go down the road to Starkville to finish your season. Point is, Ole Miss is going to be, it's already a trendy place to go because you look at the proof in the pudding with guys coming to Ole Miss, going to the league. 8 draft picks last year, all were transfers. So Ole Miss is going to potentially be a program that could kind of take its pick. Like, it's not going to be that easy. You still got to pay, but like Penn State, Auburn, UCLA, Florida, you could have Auburn open up. All of these schools that have really good players and good talent, and not just the schools that have coaching changes. Like, that's what I would do if I was an Ole Miss fan. I'd start looking at, these websites that grade guys week in, week out, like who's the best cover corner, who's the best, tackling linebacker, who has the best pressure rate. Look at those lists and see where those guys are and check their classification. How many years of eligibility do they have left? That's what you need to do because, Noah McKinney, we know about him. Clemson's got a guy in the portal, secondary guy that can play. He's on the list. But like as the season goes on, more of these guys are going to start either announcing they're in the portal, or they're just going to start talking to people behind closed doors before the season's over. And then as soon as that regular season's over, they're probably getting in. More and more guys are going to skip the bowl game because they want to get somewhere and get started and start learning a playbook and start competing. So, maybe a roundabout, I kind of jumped around your question there, but it's still early. So yeah, McKinney's definitely one, but that's my thing with also an enticing thing to keep Kiffin is man, you've already got the honey trap already set. You just got to let people come to you now that say, hey, I saw what Randall Joyner did for Princely and for Walter and Jared Ivey and JJ Pegues. I want to come play D-line. Hey, you got Pooh Paul, you got him to the league. He's there. I want to do that. So, Brian Brown, hey, Trey Amos, rookie, starting in the league. I want to start in the league as a rookie. So, all of these things are just big billboards for the portal. And I think that it would serve Kiffin well to continue to fund that marketing campaign of, hey, come to the SIP, Portal King, all of that stuff. You can come play here for a year or two and then go make some good folding money for your family.
Clutch_Cam TV. This will get us out of here. Lagway transfers to Ole Miss. I think Florida would melt completely. That would feed families. DJ Lagway being coached by Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss.
The one thing that I hate,
families.
The one thing that I hate, if we're going to play this game, Ole Miss doesn't play Tennessee next year. I would love for Lane Kiffin to go get Nico Iamaleava and play Tennessee with him.
He'd be an option. Damon Williams is a guy to keep an eye on. Almost had him committed at one point out of high school. Yeah, Washington quarterback. He's been doing some good things. Another player I would watch for as far as quarterbacks, because right now the prohibitive favorite for Ole Miss to start at quarterback in 2026 is Austin Simmons. But if Austin were to get into the portal, or if I don't think we're done hearing from Austin Simmons yet. Look, I think last week was kind of a reintroduction because he's healthy enough. If you remember to start the year, Ole Miss utilized a 2-quarterback system. Yes, Trinidad Chambliss was the gimmicky quarterback, but they flipped those roles, and you saw that against Georgia. I just don't think that Trinidad has as long a leash as people think he might have, even though I think he's done some great things. Obviously, he's 4-1 as a starter, only 1 interception, great player. But Austin Simmons, while he is the prohibitive favorite, there is a threat as long as he's sitting on the bench and not playing as much as he wants to be playing. And I know his dad's a problem right now. They're going to be in the quarterback market, something serious. And one guy I think they need to pay attention to too, not just DJ Lagway if he were to get in, which I don't really know if he'll get in or not, but Deuce Knight from Auburn, he's one that Ole Miss would be all over. So would Damon Williams. And
you want to hear my portal guy?
Yes.
Now, I've asked people who I think would know. They say the portal is the option. Some people are saying he could go pro. Brendan Sorsby at Cincinnati. Now, it's probably because he wears the same number and looks the same in pads, but a lot of Jackson Dart to that game.
Okay, Brendan Sorsby. That's another good one. There, and I had another one too, but it's just I've blanked on it because talking to sources, they're going to be active in all markets. Remember, even when they had Austin Simmons and before they got Trinidad Chambliss after the spring, they were very involved and very down the road with Bro Perbula. They were bringing him in for a visit. His price tag just got too much for. And you might say in Florida, well, our price tag wouldn't be too much. No, that's not how this works because Ole Miss was replacing 20 of its all 22, and money for everybody is finite, and you have to have the best CEO and person that can do the accounting and the allocation of resources. And Ole Miss said, what will we get out of Bro Perbula paying him $1 million that we couldn't get out of making sure we have Harrison Wallace and this and this and this? The end of the day, Ole Miss is going to be in that market, the transfer market. They are every single year. And if you're a Florida fan still talking about regressive things like high school recruiting rankings, I would again point you to the fact that Ole Miss has had a top 4 transfer class pretty much every single year, including the number 1 transfer class last year, and that will not change. So until you can give me a reason other than the past you are living in, I'm going to stick to what I've been saying all week and been consistent with as of today, and it could change by tomorrow because that's how these things are. I think he's going to end up sticking around and signing a lucrative extension for everybody.
Another guy for true sickos out there, Colton Joseph from Old Dirty.
Oh, wow.
ODU. Newport Beach kid.
Okay, well, there you go.
He can play.
Nice little name to leave it on. This has been Talk of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. He's Zach Berry at Zach_Berry. We're both right for the Ole Miss Spirit. OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate of On 3. Sign up today for just $1. Thanks to Riverland, B&A Bank, Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group. If you didn't get to catch the whole show, a replay will be up on the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate of On 3 today within minutes. And so will the replay be on YouTube. Just go search Talk of Champions in YouTube, and you'll see our full library of live shows and videos and collaborations. We'd love to have you everywhere we are, man. This is what we do. This is our favorite thing to do, is just sit around and talk about the Rebels. So thank you for joining us on this live edition of your lunch break. We might have found something here, Zachary, where we might have to do a lunch break show, live show every single week, considering the numbers. And if that's what you want, let us know. Perfect. And we'll do more and more for you. Thank you so much, Zachary, and we'll see y'all soon.
UCLA money line, baby.
Really?